Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. I'm your host, Nick Deus. At Nick Deus10 is where you can find me. At Veterans Minimum is where you can find all things VM. Big ups to the members of the Patreon. Support for Veterans Minimum comes from the Patreon, patreon.com/Veterans Minimum. My guest today, on the other end, all the way from Queens, baby. Jay, what up?
Queens get the money. What's up, my boy? Good to see you. Good to hear from you.
It's always fun to connect with you, man. We've been friends now for a couple of years. We've had a lot of fun conversations both on the show and in private. And you're one of my favorite people that I've connected with in this sports media industry, dude.
Yeah, that means a lot. I've never heard that from you. So, thanks for dropping it on me. I don't know if that was planned or anything, but, I know you're a genuine ass dude. So, appreciate that.
What you been up to, man?
We were speaking a little bit before we jumped on this. Started a new gig. I've been there for 2 months. I'm at OK Player, pretty much a hip hop publication, not on the same scale as Complex, but just a different lane, covering a lot of old school, 90s. Think Tribe, De La Soul, Erica Badu, a lot of shit that we grew up on. And it's been fun. So far, so good. Leading social, managing 3 or 4 people. It's been a good time so far. I like what I'm doing and, really good vibe.
I had you on often. We were doing some of that AMP stuff. And we also did a pod that got a lot of love, dude, when we were comparing NBA players to World Cup stars. That
Really?
was
I feel like you think about that. That blew up like that?
Yeah, we had some videos, got some good views on social, and then from a download perspective, that did pretty well. And I had a lot of people, because you know how it is, man, with major international soccer, you get a lot of casuals that tune in, which is dope. And I feel like with how great that World Cup final was, just to go back a little bit, I think a lot of people are going to stay with soccer, especially when you have a classic like that and having Mbappe and Messi, the two icons of the game, and that game in particular, actually put on a performance like they did. You could see a lot of people staying as fans. And I would get a lot of messages, bro, and they were like, dude, comparing this guy to Luca, and I'm not a soccer fan, but now I get it. Like, oh shit, this dude on Brazil is that dude,
Right.
right? And making these comparisons, and it got a lot of good feedback, man. I love that we put that episode together.
That was cool because I know that was a little bit last minute winging it by us, and we did pretty well with it.
The NBA. I now after football ends, I like to pivot into the NBA. I would talk more NBA if the football season wasn't as crazy as it is. And I feel like both of these sports, the NFL and the NBA, have become 12-month-a-year sports. Like there really is no off season because some trade goes down, someone wants out from where they're playing now to move to another destination, and then it's talking points for 2, 3, 4 weeks, even after the season ends. I want to
Literally.
start this. I want to start this conversation with you about the NBA and especially people like you in particular who are deep into the NBA and you love the NBA. How interested are you in regular season basketball?
I love regular season ball. I'm watching every Knicks game, and I'm in a few fantasy basketball leagues. Feel like we've spoken about this before, more on fantasy football, but I'm in 2 fantasy basketball leagues. A lot of trash talking. Haven't won either of those yet. Made it to the finals and have lost in both. So I'm definitely in tune with it because I gotta know who I'm picking up, or if someone gets traded, who's gonna get those minutes. Looking at the standings all the time. I definitely don't gamble as much because I feel like I'm always taking L's, but I just feel like I need to tap in more with you, so I'm not taking those L's. But yeah, I kind of love the regular season. Honestly, it's fun, it's a thrill, and it's something that I enjoy year in and year out.
I'm gonna tell you the same thing I tell all my boys. I'm like, bro, y'all know me. Holla at me, bro, if you need these bets. Like, come on, man. Everyone gotta eat together. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah,
bro,
I gotta tap in.
just tap in.
I'm slacking. I'm slacking.
Yo, fantasy basketball. Did I ever tell you the story about me with fantasy basketball?
Nah.
I played in one league one time. I gave up after 2.5 weeks.
Oh my god. Oh, you did. You had Zion, and it just. I
It was
remember
it
her.
was Zion's rookie year. I had the number 2 overall pick. I take Steph Curry, and it was the year Steph Curry got hurt. And then like I had Laurie Markkinen, I had Zion, I think my best pick was like Julius Randle. But bro, of my first 8 picks, 7 of them were hurt. And the eighth
Um,
pick was like Zion, and I didn't have Zion the first 2.5 months. So bro, I was getting smoked. So I just paid I did the most like bitch ass move ever, bro. I paid the fantasy league. And I was like, yo, someone else got to run this team. I can't do it. I've never been invited
yeah,
back since.
yeah. I mean, that's admirable of you. You know, like someone inherited a team, try to make it go. But talking point. Now that you mentioned that, I feel like this year, and I don't know if we've seen it on a regular season standpoint, like not within fantasy or even DFS. It's the most injuries I think ever within fantasy sports. Like right now, currently, I'm rostering 3 or 4 people that are injured, and it's because I have a good position. I'm top 4 in the league, so like I could lose some weeks, and playoffs in fantasy are in 3 weeks, so it's tough, like and it's gonna be a 1 week off with the All Star. So I'm like, all right, I'm hopeful. Like Marcus Smart, I have him, Kelly Oubre, Bobby Portis, Mitchell Robinson. Like all these guys that have been hurt and they're producing for me all year. I need them to win the chip when it counts the most. So like I'm waiting on it, but it's kind of evening itself out because everyone else is kind of doing the same thing, holding 2 or 3 injured players, and it's pretty ridiculous. I think it's the year with the most injuries in the NBA.
Bro, don't get comfortable, son. Don't you dare start thinking comfy with that lead that you have, because I was 9-1
Yeah,
in fantasy football, bro, a couple years ago. Was it I think it was the COVID year. So it was the first
yeah,
2020. I'm 9-1, most points for, and I'm just talking so much shit because I won the 2 years prior. So I'm like, yo, I'm a three-peat and I'm gonna quit the league. I'm never playing again with you bums. I was talking mad shit, wrestling memes. I'm taking, like, I used to do this thing where every time I won, I would take the fantasy belt and I would do like my version of like iconic wrestling pictures. So like Shawn
yeah.
Michaels holding the belt crying. I was doing that with my fantasy. So I was trolling all the homies, right? And then what happens? 4 injuries. I lose my last 3 games. I go from scoring like a buck 60 a week to 87. So I'm in a 3-way tie for the bye weeks, and I end up going from the top seed all year. I go to the 3 seed. I got to play in week 1, and I get smoked and all that yapping. So don't get comfortable, bro, because it's a long ass season.
Yeah,
I'm warning you.
it is. No, I feel you. I feel you. I'm in fourth right now. I slid from second, so like I feel you on that. It's 2 3 weeks left. Mathematically, I can't get eliminated, so like that's a good thing. But at the same time, I got to know when to cut bait. So like if these guys aren't coming back by next week or the following, it's gonna be time to start finding whoever's gonna produce for me.
The thing with the NBA regular season, and I know we were kind of like messing around talking about fantasy, but a lot of it does apply to fantasy as well, right? Especially with a lot of these injuries. It's I think the problem that the NBA runs into, and at least for me, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, and from talking to a couple people in the Discord, some fans, and just running the idea by them, or just gauging their level of interest in the NBA regular season, it feels like a lot of the players and the organizations don't care about the regular season. Why should we as fans then care? Right? Like last night, bro, I was hyped to watch. I'll make sure to tune in when it's Lakers Celtics, Celtics Nuggets, Suns Mavericks. When it's like a marquee matchup, and I have League Pass
Right.
now, so I can watch the Knicks since I'm no longer in New York. I try to circle throughout the week on my downtime, like, yo, you know what? This game on Wednesday might be dope. But then you look at it, Milwaukee yesterday plays the Celtics, and that's like the Celtics, what, C plus team that they had?
Yeah.
So to me, that's the downside to it. Yeah, you want to rest your players and you want to give them the chance to recover from nagging injuries that might linger the rest of the year. But at what expense are you diluting your product to your audience?
Yeah, it's weird because I have a homie that's a Celtics fan, and they decided to play the whole team versus the Pistons, but then rest their main guys versus the Bucks, which is a harder team, a better team. It's weird, and it's weird that it's just the load management is normal now. It's accepted. It's not frowned upon. There's way less back to backs now. Which obviously impacts fantasy too because it's less quality streams you can make in a week, and a lot of people playing at the same time. So you try to not roster people on the same teams. So you always have someone going. So it's like you mentioned, fantasy impacts regular hoops, and then regular hoops and impacts fantasy. It's a double edged sword, and I've seen that a lot, especially this year. And yeah, I've speaking on how that's changed. I feel like the players have wanted to rest more just because of those back to backs, and there's even less back to backs now, but you're still seeing the same thing. So does it have to change? Maybe there is a way to improve the product, or make sure that these players are playing on the road because people pay to see them, and like not everyone lives within a certain spot. So when Bron's coming to New York, you don't want to see him play, so you pay for that ticket, or vice versa, whoever it is. It could be Giannis, it could be Luca. But then sometimes coach just decides to bench him and like, yo, this is for the benefit of my team because we want to win a chip later, which is obviously the pinnacle, and you understand it. But so many factors and variables into making those decisions.
Yeah, it's weird because you see it so often. And in the beginning it was cool when like the Spurs were doing it. That became their thing when they would rest. But then now it's gotten out of hand. And I think the biggest issue that you run into is your consumer. And like you said, we only have one chance, saying we like I'm back in New York, but if you're in any city, you have one chance to see these stars come into town. And I feel like one way they could fix it is don't punish the road fan. If you're gonna sit at home because you have more
Yep.
opportunities to see your guys play at home than you do on the road. If you're living in the New York area and you're a Jokic stan or you're just a Nuggets fan and you want to watch Jokic, he comes twice a year to New York, once at the Garden and once in Brooklyn. If you buy tickets and you plan in advance so you can get the ticket cheaper because you don't want to buy a week of or day of and you're paying out the wazoo. But if you want to buy something in advance, you're taking that risk. And bro, tickets are expensive, especially in New York, bro. Like to go to the Garden, I mean, even when the Knicks were trash, it'd be like $400 just to get into the building. And imagine
Literally.
you're paying this money. If us two were like, yo, bro, Friday night, LeBron coming into town, let's pay some money. Let's get a nice seat. And we drop like $400 each. And then we're gonna drink beers, we're gonna eat over there. That's like $1,000 combined between us two.
A
It's
lot
a
of money,
that's a
man.
lot of money, bro. That's like about
The
half our
garden
rent.
is so it's so much money to me. Like I always plan to go like once a year because I know I'm gonna eat before. I'm gonna drink there. I'm normally with someone, so like we're buying each other drinks. Like I might get out of there with some memorabilia, whether it's for me or some siblings. My dad, he put me on with the Knicks, so I always walk out of there with some new fire merch. So it's just like, yo, after the ticket and you put all that into consideration, it's a head crack, and you can't do it so often. So yeah, it's something to consider.
Do you like that idea of benching your guys, load management to be done at home as opposed to on the road?
I think it makes more sense, especially the what we considered before is that you're going to play more games at home. It's an 82 game season. You're playing 41 at home. If you miss a game at home, obviously a fan will be upset, but at the same time, you might be able to come another time, or you just chalk it up to like, all right. Well, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it too, you obviously have the right to be tight. If one of your favorite players, like if I'm going to see Brunson and he sits that day, I'm like, damn, that sucks. Like I might not come to this game because considering the Knicks, that ticket's ridiculous. So that might be my one game in the year, and I'll be upset. But it just makes more sense if they're resting at home versus somewhere else because they don't get to see them that often. What is it like in conference? You're playing each other 3 or 4 times, and then if you're going to the West, you only play them twice, home and away. So it's a lot to take into account into accord.
And I feel like another thing could be if you announce planned dates on the schedule that your guys are gonna rest. Like there are some spots. The more I think of it, like you could kind of highlight. Like yesterday was a surprise though with the Celtics benching against the Bucks, right? Like you would probably do that
Yeah.
against a Rockets or a Spurs, right? You're doing it. You know what, man? Our B and C team could maybe get a W over these guys, but
Right.
to me, it's always whack when that happens because it's a marquee game on the schedule and it's a team that you're going to have to play in the playoffs when it matters. So why not get a better understanding of what your team could do against them, especially when they're at full
Yes.
strength? Like if Giannis and Middleton and Drew, they sat yesterday, I understand the Celtics being like, yo, Tatum and all these guys, like, you guys could sit. We don't need you for this one. But if they're going full force and then you're not, it's a terrible product.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's also a strategy play. Like, did Coach Joe Mazzulla not want them to see their best players and their schemes up close and in person? Like, all right, we're gonna sit y'all now. We're gonna, have y'all watch the tape and not see it live and in person. Because I think that is gonna be one of the matchups, if not the Eastern Conference Finals matchup, is a Bucks versus Celtics kind of situation. Because that's two of the better teams. They're always there. They've been to the finals within the last couple of years, both of them multiple times. So it's just like, is that a factor? Not too sure. But we brought up that they played them versus the Pistons when their B team and C team could have done that. And mind you, last night's game was really competitive. Went to OT. Surprisingly, but it's like, all right, it should it always be like this? No, is it? It's gotten very, very much so normalized.
Yeah, and to touch on what you said about the Celtics and the Bucks, I think it's them two versus all in the East. The pedigree of what we've seen from them the last couple of years. And bro, like, I don't trust the Sixers. I just don't. Until proven otherwise, I think James Harden is just going to come up short in the playoffs because that's the MO of his entire career. And Embiid is a problem. We know that. But I think that they're kind of limited. I think when the going gets tough in the playoffs, it becomes very matchup specific. And I think them two are the cream of the crop in the East. And then, like, yeah, the Nets are 33 and 24 right now, but a lot of that was because they had Kyrie and Durant. I expect some regression there. One of the questions that I had, though, staying on topic with the East, is what team has caught your attention, whether it's good or bad? And for me, dude, it's Miami. Because I feel like Miami is a team that right now they're the 6th seed. They're 32 and 26. And collectively speaking, I feel like it's fair to say that they've kind of underachieved this year so far. But we talk about experience, and come playoff time, you're not going to want to play Miami, bro. They're going to be a tough out. They're annoying to play. That heat culture thing is a real thing come playoff time. And they had a big win against the Magic a couple of nights ago where they were down like 11 or like 10 or 11 with 4 minutes left. Came back and won that game. And they're just a team where, yeah, there's a lot of wear and tear on these guys the last couple of seasons, especially a dude like Jimmy Butler. But bro, they're battle tested. And I feel like that team is a team that I don't want to call them the Patriots because the Patriots won championships, but they're like the Baltimore Ravens kind of. Like, if you play them in the playoffs, you're going to get punched in the mouth and you're going to leave that game worse than you did coming in. And that's how I think of Miami and that heat culture thing. So that's a team that you got to show love to, show respect to, and always take them serious.
Yeah, I was gonna say they are a tough out. I like the comparison to the Ravens because the Ravens are always a tough out. They might have their down years, but if you've seen them in the playoffs, they're gonna come correct and they're gonna give you everything they got. But are you saying you're surprised with Miami or like impressed with them thus far?
I hate giving you answers like this, but a little bit of both. I'm surprised
Okay.
because coming into the year, I thought they could be a team that could definitely, compete for like a top 3 seed. But it's more so just like trusting the infrastructure there, like top to bottom, ownership, management, coach, the players that have been there, done that. I just think it's a team that you can't forget about. Like, if you're having your conversations for teams that I think can win a championship or win the East, it's like, yeah, it's the Celtics, yeah, it's the Bucks, and in the West, it's the Suns and Memphis and the Mavericks also. But it's like, just don't forget about Miami is what I'm getting at, Jay.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, and it's true though because it's like, well, they play the Nets tonight. It's pretty important for seeding as far as the Knicks goes. Like I think the Knicks with the Nets downgrading and making those trades, I think we can make that jump, and it's important to pay attention to a lot of these games. It's like we're approaching 20 games left in the NBA regular season, so like everything counts, and we don't want to do a play-in. I feel like we experienced the playoffs 2 years ago, and it wasn't in the play-in. and we've seen how the play-in's gone. It's definitely good product. It's exhilarating, but it's stressful for us as fans. So that's kind of how I see it. And they had some struggles to begin the season, and they kind of have the same team. They haven't really changed much. They made no trade, which was kind of surprising. I've heard stories on why that happened, but I don't know if they're true or not. But yeah, I would say they are a surprising team, and either way, if you see them in the playoffs, it's going to be a difficult out either way. And I'm curious what they do with that. Whether it's like, are they going to blow it up if they underwhelm? Do they run it back and then just try to bring someone else? But it's something to watch because I was expecting a little bit more from them, and maybe that's just based on how they were performing before.
What team has caught your attention, whether good or bad, or a team you want to show love to?
The Sacramento Kings. I am still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm so shocked they're a top 3 team in the West. I feel like most of our lives we've known the Kings to be, pretty trash. I mean, if you go back to obviously White Chocolate, Jason Williams, and C. Webb, and getting fucked over by the Lakers in the playoffs, like that's the only time we knew the Kings to actually be like a problem. And like even you're walking through New York City and you seeing the white and purple. I'm just like, this is fly, this is fire. But now the fact that they're a pretty young team and De'Aaron Fox is balling, they made that trade to get Sabonis, and a lot of people were just like, yo, like, why'd they do this? And now you see the Pacers aren't doing as well, and they let go of their best player, Halliburton. To me, I think he's better than De'Aaron Fox, even though Fox is having a better season, I'll say, respectively. It's just I wasn't expecting this out of them. I've been expecting them to not be in that predicament. They're one of the better teams, if not the best team in California. When's the last time we said that? So I'm shocked, and I do want to see what they do with it. When it comes to playoff time, I feel like they lack that experience, so like they might get punched in the mouth, but it'll be a good experience because they're going to end that drought. I don't know how long that drought is, but they have not seen playoff basketball in a long time. But good for their fans, we deal with that as Knicks fans. So shout out to them.
Yeah, it's been 16 years, bro, since the 05-06 season, because I did some NBA stuff a couple weeks ago with my buddy Josh. He's the host of the American Fan 365, and one of the teams that I showed love to were the Kings. And what's interesting about them, bro, is they have a lot of guys that their team kind of just let go. And Sabonis, like you said, Herter also, I always liked him as a rotational piece for the Hawks. Malik Monk has bounced around. He seems to have found a home. Harrison Barnes, we know about him when he got let go from the Warriors. And everyone laughed at the contract when he got it because it was like, yo, that's a ton of money to give Harrison Barnes. But I think he's like that vet on their team, and he's that dude that kind of is just solid across the board. And then, like you said, De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, they got 2 All-Stars. Not many teams have 2 All-Stars. And they're a young team. You're right. Like, come playoff time, it's going to be interesting when they do go up against a team that's battle-tested. But you definitely got to show the Kings love, bro. It's been a long-ass time. Like, you're talking about like the early 2000s was the last time where people were like, excited about the Kings. It's 20 years, bro.
Exactly. They're one of those, like, franchises across all sports that they're just on such the longest droughts. Like you're like, oh, which teams haven't seen the playoffs, and then you just group together the worst ones, and they're always there, but they're about to change their fortune. And I did want to mention one more because this was the one that I was going to drop is the Orlando Magic. I'm like pretty shocked with how good they are. I like watching them play. I like watching Banchero. I feel like they're a few trades away, and they have the pieces to make the trades to like shore up their team and then get to a good spot. But they've just kind of been biding their time with a lot of the roster picks and keeping a lot of the same guys. And, they might end up getting another pick this year. I don't know who they'll end up getting there, but this draft seems pretty stacked. And I think they deserve some flowers and their love too, because they've beaten the Celtics 3 times. And we were just showing the Celtics love for being top 2. And pretty shocked when they get those results, but they always play the Knicks pretty hard. They almost beat the Heat the other night, and it just speaks to the culture that I guess they're developing. It's there. I see it, and I'm shocked by it, but it's about damn time for them.
You know what the problem with the Magic is? Everybody's in their 20s, bro. Like, they have a lot of pieces, like you said. They can make a trade. They have a lot of assets that you could give up. But their oldest guy is Gary Harris, and he's 28. And then everyone else is like 21, 22, 23. And
Yeah.
it's cool. But also, bro, you need that old head in the locker room to be like, yo, bro, you can't be out until 3 in the morning when we got a game the next day. You need like there's things that don't appear on the box score that need to be said, and having leadership and the OGs in the league to guide you. I think that's what the Magic are missing. And I know it might sound funny to some people, but you need those guys. Like, you've heard stories of when, like, well, we saw it with the Knicks, right? Like Rasheed Wallace, Jason Kidd. I mean, like, you had that grizzled vet that comes in and it's like, yo, this is what you got to do. This is how you got to be a
Yeah.
professional. And a lot of their guys that they rely on are just young dudes. So this is going to be a team that they could package to bring someone in. Now, that's also the problem, because the Magic have never really been able to bring in a big name. It's always they've drafted them and then eventually they
Yes.
leave, right? Like, that's the history of the Magic. And that's the problem with a lot of organizations too, where it's hard for you to keep your stars when you're a small market like this. But also on the flip side, it's like social media has kind of eliminated that completely, no? Where like the
Yes.
small market, big market doesn't really matter as much as it used to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like it depends on the person or the player. Like, KD kind of came here because it was a bigger market, and I know he established like boardroom in here. So it depends on the player or what they're looking for. Like, the bigger markets like LA, New York, obviously you're gonna get more endorsement money, more screen time. But like you said, social media and marketing and that kind of stuff doesn't matter just as much, because I feel like Banchero is still gonna get his deals and he's still gonna get that love, especially if he just continues on this trajectory that he's on. So yeah, I think you can see it both ways.
You mentioned Durant. I haven't had a chance to talk much about the trade that went down. I know we love it as Knicks fans because
Facts.
we got tormented, we got tortured by our own media, and bro, no one cares about the Nets in New York. I say this shit all the time when I meet people that are not from New York. I tell them, like, bro, y'all care about the Nets. Like, nationally, people care about the Nets because they had those
Right.
guys. But in New York,
Yes.
no one cares about them. And to have the New York media, like, we saw all the memes because we bought into it too. Like, oh shit, we're gonna have Kyrie, Durant, and Zion, and then we end up not getting Zion, and then Kyrie and Durant end up going to the team right next door, and then
Yeah.
3 years later, those dudes aren't even there, bro. How do you feel about this trade that went down with Durant and the Suns?
Listen, bro. I'm so glad that they're gone, because it's not that I hate KD. I hate the decisions he's made, like going to the Warriors. I was like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to join the best team. Like, then following Kyrie, like that's kind of the story that we're hearing. And they were supposed to come here. And listen, I was up when the trade happened. I was in my group chats going in. I woke up. I had more of a field day with whoever was asleep. And then friends are just like, "Oh, why are you celebrating this? Like, did you win a championship?" I was like, "Yo, it feels like it," because they didn't want to come here, and they didn't, and they failed. Like, three Hall of Famers on that team. Durant's on his fourth super team. Like, he's only one with the Warriors, and I like KD in terms of basketball. Like, he's such a great player. Like, especially even coming back from that Achilles injury.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who does that? It was Don Wilkins before, and now he's playing at an MVP level. If he didn't get hurt, I think he would have been up there. He had that 10, 12 game winning streak, the longest in franchise history for them this year. So yeah, like, I'm just thankful that's over. I'm thankful it didn't turn into anything. It was one playoff series that they won. It was definitely hurtful to our ego when that happened, and then the media and your friends are just like, ha ha, Knicks. And like, even if we didn't think they were coming, like, you'd see ESPN do the graphics with Katie in a jersey, Kyrie in a jersey, Zion in a jersey, and I'm just like, us, we know that's too good to be true, so we never, like, buy into it. Maybe a little bit, but the fact that he's gone now and he's on the Suns of all teams, it's just like, fire jersey. First of all, they're really good regardless, and they've been to the finals already without him. I was listening to Ball Don't Stop today, and it's just like they can't swarm Book and CP anymore, because they'll just kick it to Durant, and he's just gonna cause havoc. So like I'm kind of glad for him, all things considered, especially because he decided to follow Kyrie, and then Kyrie kind of just imploded, kind of how he always does. So good on him leaving the Nets for our sake and for his sake. But that's a scary ass team out there out west, man.
Bro, you ain't kidding about him coming back from the Achilles injury because back to back years he's averaging 29. And even that year with the Nets, that first year, 26 a game, but he's shooting a career high from field goal percentage career high, excuse me.
He's so efficient. Like
Super efficient. And that was the thing, bro, when he got hurt, at the time he got hurt, I think he was 30. And everyone was saying, oh,
yes,
it's the end of Durant and it's a hard injury to come back from. And I felt like I was in the minority at the time because I was saying to myself, and when we had veterans minimum at the time, we would have these conversations and I would say, I don't know if the Achilles is going to affect him as much as it would someone else because, yeah, he's explosive, but that's not his game. He's such a prolific scorer and a great shooter,
yeah,
too, for his size, where he doesn't need to be a guy that's going to beat you with his speed and his athleticism. Yeah, he has that, but that's not what makes him great. So I felt like he was going to be just fine. The same thing I said about Klay Thompson when he got hurt, how it didn't matter that he got hurt with the Achilles. Like, yeah, it sucks that it went back-to-back years and he blows out his knee too, but I'm saying like their game, it's not built on athleticism, which is why those kind of
right.
guys, like Tim Duncan, bro. Tim Duncan played the same speed his whole career. That's why he ended up playing for
Okay.
as long as he did.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that you do see that they lost is probably the defensive side of it. Like KD's
Right.
not that defensive person, and Clay was always like lock up Clay. So now they're not that, but that's what you have a team for. Like let someone else handle that, and then let them play to their strengths. Like Clay's kind of rounding back into his form, and I think he's kind of back, even though he'll have like one stinker out of every like 4 or 5 games. But Katie like never went anywhere. He didn't regress. He only got better, playing to his skills and his strengths. And just being a jump shooter in this league and being so efficient is just so unheard of. It's like uncalled for too. Like, damn, how you this good? And he just continues to defy that Achilles injury. And good for him.
Yeah, how much blame do you put on him for getting in the Kyrie business?
Oh, he dove right in. He decided to partner with Kyrie, like all this, oh, 1A, 1B, and oh, I'm finally with someone that could take the shot, and all this nonsense for the media and to like prop each other up, only for Kyrie to do multiple things over the course of 3.5 years, whether it's that Amazon documentary and pulling his post where he apologized right after he got traded to the Mavs and like all stuff that could have been avoided, and chalk it up to like it brings me back to the Red Sox and Manny Ramirez, Manny being Manny. This is definitely a Kyrie being a Kyrie, and he's never changed. He never will change. And I do like people that are unapologetic themselves, but when you're getting in the way of your success, good on us because we hated the Nets, and it just made things easier for us because it's laughable now. They're big failures. So like, I'm kind of glad he went with it because think about if they decided to play across the water in the Mecca and this happened, we'd still be hearing about this. The trade happened a week ago. We'd still be hearing about this nonsense, which goes back to no one cares about the Nets because they didn't really care. If the Knicks did this shit, a whole nother story, whole nother layer, and so much nonsense. So yeah, KD is fully responsible for diving into those waters. He wanted to play the best friend card. That's my boy. And he had to deal with it, unfortunately. So I'm sure he also saw, like, damn, what would it be like if I went to the Knicks?
Mm. It's crazy because I don't know if going in business with your friend is always the most optimal situation you can get into, bro.
A lot
It's
of people say that. I'm like never like for or against it because I feel like I've seen both. But I've heard more often than not, like working with your friends. It's like you can't be stern or like you're normally buddy buddy and you catch up to get away from work. So when you're at work and you got to have those tough conversations, make those tough decisions. It's harder than it is easier. You know, like I don't work with a lot of friends I grew up with. I've made friends along the way and kind of kept a few friends from different work jobs. But at the same time, it's tough. It's difficult.
I mean, bro, you're talking to someone who, the history of VM was five really close friends, and then through time, it's just like interests changed, opinions changed, desires changed, and things happen, right? And even it,
Really.
like you said, it's hard because eventually, like, I can't separate business and personal. I just can't because my business is personal, at least for me. I don't know
Yep.
if it's the most perfect approach to things, but this is what works for me, right? And I try really hard to. There are certain people that have not been on this show because I don't want them to have our relationship be tampered. There are certain people
Okay.
who I won't put on the show because I just value that friendship so much. So to me, doing business with your friends, it's dope. It's fucking awesome. But eventually, something happens where it's a personal thing that's going to spill into the show, or it's a show
Yeah.
thing that's going to spill into personal. And it's difficult, bro. And you saw it happen with KD and Kyrie. You've seen it with a lot of guys who, like, hell, even LeBron and D Wade when they went down to Miami. Eventually, like, LeBron was looking at it like, wait a little older, man. Them knees aren't the same. Like, I gotta be out. I love you, D Wade, but I
Yeah.
gotta be out. And that's what happened, right? He went back to Cleveland. He also went back to Cleveland because they were stacked at the time too. Like, he didn't go back to Cleveland
Yes.
because they weren't good because they had Kyrie. But bro, I always use this analogy, and it's like when it comes to Kyrie Irving, now this is 4 teams in 7 years. It feels even shorter than that because he didn't play home games. He got hurt. Like there was a lot of things that went into that too. But bro, at what point is he going to be accountable for his actions?
Never.
That's what it seems like, right? Because, bro, and I
Ever.
said this a couple of years ago about James Harden, and it's like it's not us, it's you, bro. It's the same thing with Kyrie, dude. If in 6 years I got married and divorced 4 times, wouldn't you be like, yo, bro, it wasn't the girl. You probably being a piece of shit, man. Right? Like
Yeah.
four times in 6 years, bro. You'd be like, yo, Nick, look, I fuck with you, bro. You're my guy. I love you, but you got some screws loose in your head. That's what it is with like James Harden, with Kyrie. It's the same thing. Like, bro, at what point is it you? Like, how many more chances we got to give you? So when I ask questions like, would you want to get in the Kyrie Irving business? I don't know if I would want to. Bro, he's an amazing talent. I think he's the best handler of a basketball I've ever seen. And I think he's better
Yeah.
than AI. Like AI is the guy that everyone was talking about. But I'm talking about just like, bro, there's games where it looks like he don't even care. And he's just running circles on like all NBA defensive players. It's crazy. But it's also like, at what point is your talent at what point does the talent and the fuckery don't mix? And that's what I think it is with Kyrie.
It's tough, man, because I will agree with you, and I kind of used to debate people on like best ball handlers or whatever. Like he's probably the most gifted and talented point guard that we've seen, and like it sucks that this personality trait or that's his biggest flaw is like he just isn't on the court sometimes, or there's injuries, or it's just like him deciding to take vacations, or just being problematic. He's a very problematic person outside of when he's on the court, and that just don't play. Like you got to be able to do both. So although he's talented, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the summer plays out with him. Like I think he'll end up on the Lakers, but I also think he's going to want his money, and people are not going to want to give him 4 years. Is it going to be a year-to-year type of thing? Is it going to be 2 years instead of 4 years? So like I'm not too sure how that plays out, but it's gonna everything that he's went through is gonna factor into his next contract, and I think that's when he's gonna feel it the most because at a certain point you don't have leverage anymore, whether it's your age, your talent, your skill, and that's approaching for him because he just had such a bad tenure with the Nets. I think he averaged anywhere between 30 and 40 games there. That's not gonna fly anywhere. Who's gonna want to sign you for 4 years knowing that you're a part time player?
Yo, you're absolutely right, bro. And that's exactly it. Like, if you're going to give him this money, which he's deserving of, if we're talking about just the talent,
Yeah.
no question. But it's like you said, he's going to miss some time. He's going to just randomly decide, like, yeah, I ain't talking to the media. I don't want to do this no more. I got offended by what they asked me, and now I'm going to sit out because I don't want to play. And like you said, he's playing 30, 40 games a year. I don't know if I would want to. I think the most optimal thing for him would be to do what LeBron did the last couple of contracts, where it's like 2 years with a player option for year 3. It's like I get that big money, I'll
Yeah.
get 80 million, I'll get 90 million, but anything long term, I think you'd be foolish if you're an organization to give him that because this is what he's shown us. And bro, the other thing that's crazy is like the makeup of the NBA superstar nowadays. It's like you get this extension, 200 million, 5-year contract, and then 18 months into it, you're like, yo, I ain't happy. I want out. That's like, bro, like, what are we going to do?
KD did it. Didn't KD just sign last summer?
Bro, KD
You
did
know?
it. Harden's done it. Kyrie's done it. Like, guys aren't doing this often. They're just like, yo, I'm out. And it's like,
Yeah. That's the new NBA right now. And it's like you can sign that extension and it won't matter. Like, like Giannis might be one of those next that does it. He's just like, yo, I've done a lot for y'all. Like, it's time to go. So that is normal. And I was gonna float this question to you. I had a comment with my buddies, and I was saying I don't think Kyrie gets maxed ever again. Do you think he'll gonna get another max contract?
I think he will because people are going to talk themselves into it. And that's going to be a mistake. But he's really talented, bro. And someone's going to talk themselves into it, and he'll probably wow them in a meeting, and he'll make promises like he's done everywhere, right? Like the famous thing he said to Boston, like, I'm not leaving. If they want me, I'll be here. And like he said the same thing along the same lines to the Nets. And then, before you know it, he wants out, right? So someone's going to talk themselves into it. Bro, if you're talented and no matter what, people are going to put up with your BS. But eventually, those same people are going to be like, I can't deal with this no more. But if it's a new thing, It's a new fling, it's that new hot chick that you're dating, you're going to put up with a lot of it. But then eventually it's going to be like, man, I just can't deal with this no more. That's going to happen to a team that's going to get into the Kyrie business.
I feel you. And I was on the side that he wasn't. I was really adamant. But this kind of came up. I don't know if you peeped it. It might have been within football, baseball, basketball. But some teams aren't trying to win. And if you just want him on your team to sell jerseys, tickets, notoriety, media, like he's going to have people asking him all the questions. They're going to flock all the time to see him. So that's kind of the only way I see he would get a max is like a team that really doesn't want to win. But then does that speak to him and his legacy? Like, is he going to be like, all right, I'm fine with not winning anymore? Or is he going to be one of those, I'm cool with not ring chasing, let me get this bread, like I won one ring already, and I am who I am, nothing's going to change my legacy or that? Because I don't think anything can impact his legacy. He is who he is, and I think this last stint with the Nets will put that, stamp on like who he is, because he's unwavering, unapologetically himself. I mentioned it earlier. And is it going to mess with his bag? Is it going to mess with the teams that are going to want him? Is he going to end up being like one of those people that the Magic end up getting because they're like, yo, we need someone like you and we could pay you? Or are you going to go to the Lakers or stay with the Mavs? So that's what I'm most interested in when it comes to Kyrie, because I feel like now that he's not on the Nets too, I don't have to hate as hard as I did. Because, when it comes to sports, I'm definitely a hater when it comes to a few different things, and, it makes it fun. I could be honest and open about that. But now that they're not in the Nets, I feel like I could pump the brakes a little bit more, think about it, take a step back. And, like we said, he's a really talented and gifted player. But I think everything that's happened to him over the course of his career, whether it's how he dealt with Bron in the beginning to how his New Jersey Nets, they should have stayed over there, how his Nets stint. So like, let's see where it goes. And we're going to find out as soon as this summer.
Dude, you asked a hell of a question, bro, about how many teams do you think actually care about winning, and how many are just like, it's a business too, right? Like, let's make sure we're not in the red and we turn a profit this year. And that's one way where you could see something like that playing into the mix of, yo, we haven't had a star. Let's bring him in here, sell some jerseys, get some butts in the seats. And I wonder, bro, like, Off the top of your head, how many teams do you think actually care about winning, and how many are about the bottom line? I want to
I
say
think there's
I want to say that there's more teams that care about the bottom line than winning, bro. Across like sports in
yeah,
general.
I think so. I was gonna say like most leagues have anywhere from 30 to like 32 teams, and there's always the same teams in the playoffs. Usually, always the same teams that are in the finals. And for the NBA, it's like about 5 to 8 teams that have won the finals within the last 20 years. So it's like think about those other teams. They're just like out of it always. Have to find a way to make the product good, to seem like they care, to seem like they're in the mix, whether it's a trade that doesn't make sense or signing a player that doesn't fit. It's definitely probably the top 10 teams in the league, and that changes all the time, that care the most or that are in it. And then the other 20, regardless of the league, is just like, all right, maybe we'll have a Cinderella year. Maybe we'll have a year where it's like, wow, it finally showed that the picks and the stability and the structure of the organization is finally coming into shape. But do they care about winning? A lot of teams don't. They really don't.
I'm gonna do a deep dive on that, bro. I'm really curious to see like how many teams consistently are in the playoffs and are making these like championship runs. And then you wonder, like a team like that's why it's interesting what happened with Phoenix because they're historically a pretty cheap organization. Like they very rarely
Yeah.
go out and sign someone to a big deal. And obviously now they got new ownership with the controversy that went down with the old owner. But it's fascinating, bro. Like Mark Cuban is a guy who strikes me like, yo, I want to win, bro. Like I want to win,
Mhm.
and he'll do whatever it takes. That's why he made a move like this for Kyrie. It's gonna be fun, and dude, we were excited to see Suns Mavericks in the playoffs anyway before this, right? Because of their
Yeah.
beef that they have. Like there's some real hostility between the two of them, which nowadays you don't really have that in the NBA. Everybody's all lovey dovey and they're all boys, but you saw some animosity between the two teams, especially getting your ass beat at home like they did in that game last year to eliminate the Suns. And now you add the Kyrie versus Durant dynamic. If them two play each other in the playoffs, that's gonna be must see TV, bro.
Yeah, and I think they're 4-5 right now, so that'd be a first round matchup. And although we
Oof.
want that to be a conference finals matchup, I'll take it in the first round. I think all series are 7 games now, so it's just like, why not? And I think that's one of those marquees that like we need it, and I would love to see that.
The Twitter handle is at that guy JT. My man. Always thank you for coming on. Appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you giving me your time. Let the people know if there's anything else you want to plug. The floor is yours.
Yeah, that guy JT, Instagram and Twitter. Follow us on OK Player as well. That's my new spot. And I do want to take this because we didn't get to dive into it. But shout out to my boy Jalen Brunson, man. He should be an All
Yeah.
Star. I hope he gets the All Star nod. He's putting up like 30, 40 a night. They called him overpaid. The Mavs didn't want to pay him and ended up trading for Kyrie, which ends up being really similar to what they already had. Like he gave them a shot to sign him even last January. He's like, yo, I'll negotiate with you in season. And they were like, no, 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 I'm good. Thankful that they didn't do that because now we got our point guard. We haven't had that in such a long time. And I'm just so happy he's in orange and blue. And you could just see our trajectory is like stable and on the up versus stable and erotic. Like we're very a convulsive franchise, but he's providing that stability. And I know we're logging off, but do you think he's the best signing in Knicks franchise history?
I mean, bro, it's hard to dispute that. Like actual signing and not a trade. Like they traded for Melo. I would say that one was pretty impactful when he
Right.
came in. And Amari was dope for those first 50 games. And then after that, it was, oh my God, we got to pay Amari another 25 million. But
Yep.
I think I think he's turned a lot of people's heads because everyone knew how good he was. And there was always these like advanced analytics that, well, yeah, he got a big contract, but if you look at Luca off the court, his numbers like he averaged like 6 more points a game, and like his usage was obviously higher without Luca. But yeah, man, it's definitely for sure, and it's a position that we've needed for 2 decades, like even longer.
Li-
So Fact
It,
that
I would
fact that
say it's only Allen Houston is the only one that I could think of that you could be like, all right, Houston is the one that we can put him up there with the best signing in Knicks history because like we got him from the Pistons and that's when we just kind of took off and made those runs. But I'm gonna subjectively put JB over him right now just because where we're at, how long the drought was, how long the instability was at one of the most important positions on a basketball team, and he's really that guy. Call him Bruns him, you know.
and bro, we've seen him in big spots in the playoffs not back down from other elite point guards, which is something I always look at. When you go mano a mano with a dude that's at your position and you don't back down, like to me that's what makes you elite, in my opinion at least. Like whether it's quarterbacks, whether it's a forward going up against another forward, like a Messi and Mbappe thing, it's like, nah, bro, I'm a part of this conversation for a reason. So it's gonna be fun, man. I hope he gets a nod, so he could get some recognition from a national standpoint because we appreciate him in New York, but from like a national standpoint, for him to get more love than just being the guy that was the Robin to Luca's Batman. So it's gonna be fun, man, as we wind down the NBA season after All-Star break. If I could give anyone any advice, if you've been listening for years, bet the over in the All-Star game. It's hit. Bet it as soon as it goes up. Because last year, what happened, bro, was it opened up at 312 points. It closed at 328. And it went under. If you bet it like an hour before the game, you lost. If you bet the over. So you got to bet it the moment you see it available. You got to bet it. It is, I don't want to say it's a sure thing because there isn't in sports betting, but 18 of the last 21 years, it's gone over in the All-Star game. So that is like close to 90%. I'm giving you free bars, bro. You want to not take L's on on these apps.
We spoke about it, and I'm gonna take this as my first token of advice from you is to bet the over as soon as that goes live. So I'm gonna look for that, and I'm gonna put that bet in.
All things Veterans Minimum can be found at veteransminimum.com. Jay, you're the man. I appreciate you. For everyone listening, thank you for the support. Last week, it was a big week for the brand with 3 episodes, some UFC, a lot of Super Bowl stuff. Thank you all for sharing that. Continue to do so. Tell people about the show. Tag your friends, the whole 9. We will catch you guys next time on VM.
Peace.